Welcome to the Angular Radio Button and Checkbox tutorial. The Syncfusion Angular radio buttons are typically used in groups where the user selects only one option from a list of choices. In contrast, the Syncfusion Angular checkboxes make binary selections, allowing users to choose between two options, checked and unchecked. First, let's see how to get started with the radio button component. I will begin with the application creation process. I'm going to create an Angular application using the Angular CLI tool. Make sure you have installed the latest version of Node.js. First, open Visual Studio Code and install the Angular CLI using the npm install-g at angular/CLI command. As I have already installed it, I am skipping this step here. Next, I will create a new Angular project. I use the ng new project name command and name my project example. I am creating a project with the option to add a CSS style sheet, so I choose the CSS option. The project creation has started, and it is creating an Angular project with its dependencies. Now let me navigate to the project folder. To add the Syncfusion Angular Radio Button component, install the Syncfusion Angular Buttons package using the npm install at syncfusion/ej2 Angular Buttons -- save command. This will install the package with its dependencies. The application is now ready to use. The first thing I must do here is register the trial license key to use Syncfusion components. I open the main.ts file and import the register license method from the Syncfusion ej2 base package. Using this method, I register the trial license key. To learn how to generate this license key, refer to the link in the description below. The application is now configured to use Syncfusion Angular components. First, I navigate to the app component TS file and import the radio button module from the Syncfusion ej2 Angular Buttons package. Then, register it within the imports array of the component section. Move to the app component HTML file and remove its default content. I am going to add radio buttons for the payment method in the online transaction page. First, I add a division element with the class radio button control. Inside it, place the header tag, select a payment method. Then add 4 division elements with the route class. Within the first division element, add the Syncfusion Angular radio button using the EJ's radio button tag. To set the button text, set the label property to credit/debit card. To create a mutually exclusive group, define the name attribute and set an appropriate value, say payment. Similarly, add radio buttons to the other division elements with appropriate labels. Here, I set the name attribute payment to all radio buttons, so that when I select one radio button in the group, it automatically deselects the other buttons. Next, to reference the CSS styles for the radio button, navigate to the styles.css file and import the material theme. I also set the margin top to 18 pixels to align the radio button. I save the changes and run the application using the ng-serve command. You will see the Syncfusion Angular radio buttons rendered. Now you can choose any one option from the list. To set a default value to the component, use the checked property. To demonstrate, I set the checked property to true for the first radio button. Check now, the first option is selected by default. Notice, the button texts are rendered after the radio buttons. If you want to render them before the buttons, use the label position property. Here, set the label position to before for all the radio buttons. See now, texts are rendered before the buttons. The radio buttons can be displayed in two sizes, default and small. To display a small size button, set the CSS class property to eSmall. For better understanding, I remove the label position property. Check now, the size of the buttons is smaller. The default rendering direction of the radio button is left to right. That is, buttons will be displayed on the left and text on the right. To render it right to left, set the enable RTL property to true. See now, radio buttons are rendered in the right to left direction. Lastly, I will show you how to disable the component. I set the disabled property of the third radio button to true. Check now, the cache on delivery option is disabled. Next, moving on to adding the Syncfusion Angular Checkbox component to this application. The Checkbox component is a part of the Buttons package. As I have already installed it, I will add the component. I import the Checkbox module from the Syncfusion EJ2 Angular Buttons package and register it within the imports array of the components section. Within the app component HTML file, I comment out the radio button code snippets. Then, add the division element with class checkbox control and add the checkbox component by adding the EJS checkbox tag. I set the label property to default. I also set the margin top to 18 pixels to align the checkbox. Look here, when I click the checkbox, it checks. To enable the checkbox by default, set the checked property to true. See, the checkbox is checked while rendering. By default, the label renders after the checkbox. To change the position, set the label position property to before. You will see the label renders before the checkbox. Like the radio button, the checkbox also has two sizes, default and small. To change the size to small, set the CSS class property to eSmall. I remove the label position property for better understanding. See now, a smaller size checkbox is rendered. Just like the radio button, this can also be rendered from right to left. To change it, set the enable RTL property to true. Look now, the checkbox renders in the right to left direction. To display the checkbox in an indeterminate state, I remove the checked property and set the indeterminate property to true. Now the checkbox is in an indeterminate state. Finally, to disable the checkbox component, set the disabled property to true. See now, the component is disabled. In this video, I showed you how to add the Syncfusion Angular radio button and checkbox components to an Angular application. You also saw how to customize the label position, component size, rendering direction, and disable it. If you want to see a working example, you can download it from the GitHub link in the description below. I have also provided a link to see if you qualify for a free license key to use our Angular products through our community license. If you found this video useful, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.